Right, morning guys. So welcome back to another video on the Studio Baker, and welcome back to NZ Mopro Outlaw Kustoms. New teacher on this morning, selling gasoline and grills. It's a car show coming up in another month or so. Hopefully I might get to that to film it. So I finished yesterday not putting primer on this and screwing around with that back door for half the day. So I'm going to finish sanding and then try and get some primer on this thing, and go from there hopefully and see where we get. So yeah, anything else to say? Nah, because I've already done this once and I waffled on for 20 minutes bitching and moaning about shit. I thought I'd do it again. So I'll get sanding and yeah, we'll see you in a bit. Righty, so as you've seen me, I did that little, well, it was about 20 minutes of footage of me sanding while the fire. I'm going to have to go back over it again. So I'm probably not going to put primer back on here, and probably parts of this I probably won't put primer on. I might just have to flick a little bit up here because I've the primer off here. But you know, I'll re-prime probably this bottom part. There's a couple little patches that, you know, I can still block back a little bit further, but it's pretty good. This, I think, oh no, that might be just, oh yeah, no, it could be the top layer. You get a little bit more to here, the sand, but like it's pretty good. Like I'm down to the nitty gritty. I had to pull the freaking tape off here because I keep catching it. So I'm probably gonna have to I'm gonna have to touch up this frame anyway. It is what it is. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, but I'm gonna have to touch it up when I get sort of finished. And there's a couple of spots I've noticed where there's been some holes that I haven't taped up that have been close to the chassis that I've just missed, and there's a little bit of primer on them. So when I get it all painted and get all the shit out of the road, I'll just mask the bottom of the car off, cover it obviously, and just give the chassis a light wet sand and whatever, and just blow some black, the satin black back on it in places. You know, it is what it is. Can't do much about it. It's just unfortunate. I just had to bolt the body back down to get this bodywork finished properly and get doors fitting, and know that I didn't have to, you know, obviously, you know, take a little bit of metal off them and whatever, just doing this final stuff. But anyway, yeah, I've got that blocked out pretty good. I think I might just have to revisit the other side. I put another piece of fresh paper on the block, because I've been using it since yesterday. I'll revisit this just with the sharper piece, because there's a couple of little patches down here where I've had the glazing putty in, and wherever there's a couple of little lines and bits and pieces, but just get that cleaned up a little bit better. Again, I'm just through the steel here, but it's looking really, really good. I'm pretty happy with the body, and the doors and stuff. Then, you know, like there's going to be the odd little mark. I'm going to go around once I get these other doors and the other centre post and that blocked back, and obviously go around some of this other stuff and block it back a little bit harder, and just check, you know, make sure I have sanded everything, because I've sort of missed here a little bit still yet, and I've obviously got to finish this stuff off, and I haven't sanded up here yet, and obviously give it a bit more of a block back on the back, because there's a lot of this I sort of only just started sanding. I was more concentrating in here and into the back part of this. this will get another couple of coats. This has been a bit of a, now it's another one of those spots that was heavily damaged. It's had some repairs, had some metal replaced. It's been a bit of a piggy spot. This is where I'd love a planishing hammer, like a hand planishing hammer or something like that. What's his name? The guy from Halfass Kustoms. Oh, I can't think of his freaking name is now. Carl Fisher, yeah. You know, I'd love a planishing hammer or something like that with a nice big deep throat and that's not too heavy. And I wouldn't mind one that's on the floor too. That's to come, you know. And that's where a lot of some of the problems I've had with like the fenders and bits and pieces like this, I could have planished out and got them better. You know, smoothed it out. You can do a lot with a hammer and dolly, but you know, when it's had a lot of metal replaced and that, like I could have run the planishing hammer over a lot of that, and just got it a lot flatter and a lot smoother, and just got the more of the panel damage out of it, if you know what I mean, where it's been joint, and you know, I could have smoothed it out a lot better, and just not had so many problems. Well, I wouldn't say problems, just, you know, it's a lot more work. And, you know, it would have been the same with the fenders. You know, I could have run them through a planishing hammer or an English wheel. I probably could have done them through the English wheel, but there's not much to, if they didn't have this and they were just like the full fender, like some of the later stuff, I probably would have run them through. But because of that line, it makes it very awkward to run through the English wheel. You know, I would have needed a hand, I reckon, but a planishing hammer might have been a little bit easier. I could have maybe had a little bit of control, but again, I would have needed a hand. But I probably could have just got them smoothed out a little nicer with a planishing hammer. But it's cool, you know. That's all things, tips, tricks we've got to learn, and obviously parts and gear that I need to buy, you know. But it shows what you can do with basic tools. You know, hammer and dolly. You know, I've got an English wheel. I've used that a bit to smooth out some panels. Like I used that for the tops of the hood to get that shape right. Used it to make that door. A couple of other little things. I think I run it through a couple of times for a couple of other little bits and pieces just to try and help things. I can't remember exactly what. I used it for that back valance where that was a bit rough. I run that through there a couple of times. That would have been nice to run through there, but that wouldn't have made any difference. You know, I could have run them through this too to help flatten out, but again, I need an extra person. That will come with time. Hopefully, you know, I might better actually have my partner here a wee bit more often after the young fella's gone to school, and I've got other jobs here that are actually paying well, I'm charging an hourly rate, you know, more at a shop level, not me just working and building a car level. You know, this is the one that's getting me into the business, and I'm not, you know, I'm charging more than just a normal hourly rate. That's something we get charged for, like I'm just getting paid to build it, and somebody else is supplying, you know, and bought some gear. I bought a little bit of gear, you know, just what I can manage to add to my collection of tools, but he's bought a lot of the bigger gear, whereas when I go into a proper shop and charging an hourly rate, then I can actually start putting some money into some gear myself, which would be good. And then also I'm hoping that I might be able to have the missus here to help me sort things and do things and whatever, and get ahead of some of that sort of stuff too. But anyway, I'll keep sanding here and see if we can get this stuff all cleaned up. Alright, morning guys. So I still didn't get primer on this thing yesterday, but I got a lot of sanding done, whatever. I didn't really, I have to look back through the videos. I just offloaded them off my phone when I got home. I haven't been back through them yet, because I was basically getting the video up that I put up this morning. I'm almost ready for primer, back on the body and everything else. I forgot, I was going to put some glazing putty on the body before I left last night, but I forgot. There's a few little spots to do, so I'm going to do that shortly. I've just been having a clean up, trying to get rid of some dust and dirt and everything off out of the place. I've got one door partly open and then the little side door open with the fan poking towards it because the breeze is blowing that way, so any dust I've created I'm trying to slowly scavenge it out that door. I want to get some, as much as I would like to get a decent extraction system, like that's not in the budget, but hoping to maybe do some half-metre box fans. Half-metre, what's that? Not quite 2 feet sort of thing, I suppose. Box fans. I was thinking about maybe getting 4 of them or something like that, and just either sitting them underneath the door, like one of the roller doors along the bottom, or something like that, just figuring out where the breeze is coming from. Even one door cracked open slightly, like a few inches, and then have the furthest away one open up just enough for those box fans to sit underneath and sit them all underneath that to try and create a draft, obviously with overspray, and just when you're painting and obviously when you're cleaning, just to try and scavenge that dust that's in the air out. I know it's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. I'm not quite ready for paint, but really, really close. I think the body, once I get these couple scrapes of, what do you want to call it, glazing putty in, and then knock that off and get some primer on this bloody thing, I think really it's ready for paint. I don't think there's anything major, if you know what I mean. Now hopefully, what's today, Wednesday? If I leave it for a few days and sand it back Monday, just let it cure off. I probably haven't really explained that, and a lot of guys that'll be watching this will know, but if you're priming and you're not in a booth, even though it's 2-pack, leave it for a few days. Don't, like most of these good 2-pack primers, like high builds or stuff like that, within a couple of hours you can paint them. And most of the products are pretty good now. They don't shrink or sag or anything like that like they used to years ago. But saying that, if you can, leave it for a week. If you've got plenty of other things to do, like other parts to clean up, fix, whatever, and you prime something, leave it for a week before you paint, before you sand it back. It's not going to hurt anything. But if you leave it for a few days, it's going to help. It might be the difference between the paint job staying really good and no marks, or like where you've done little repairs showing up in months at a time, because I have seen it lots. Anyway, I was just going to give you a little bit of an overview on this manifold for the compressor and just show how well it works, as long as it hasn't dried up too much to the floor. Right, hopefully I can see it. So I've just drained this thing. I've just dumped the whole lot. I've actually plugged the fitting in the end of the hose to try and blow excess water out of the hose, because I've been blowing the floor down. There was a lot of water in this system. I'm trying to let it cool. I've got the tap out of the bottom, so you can see the moisture was in there. Now, I don't know if you can see, but you can still see the marks of it kind of down there. Hopefully you can sort of see that. You can sort of see a little bit of splatter, but none of these have got water in them. So, if you can build a manifold, even if it's out of plastic, ideally copper or steel or something like that would be better, but this, reasonably high pressure PVC type piping works just as good. 3 or 4 drops in it, and you're golden. Like we still get a little bit of water in here. I'd like a better water trap at the end of it, but I don't, when I'm using the airline off here and not off the compressor, I hardly ever see feel any moisture come through with the air tools and stuff like that. I normally run everything through here, but when I was blowing the floor out before, I had it plugged into the other line on the tank, just because it gets me air quicker. I think that's probably a little bit restrictive, that thing, but it's fine for painting and whatever else like that. I just plugged it back in to try and help blow the water out of the, obviously to the hose reel and out of the lines and whatever else. So I just plugged a spare fitting in the end, just to try and let everything come out because I plugged that in first and then dumped the tank. So whatever, it was blowing that out before I dumped the tank, and then obviously open the taps. So yeah, do that before you're going to paint anything. Yeah, and just let that, especially if you've been using it for a while, blowing down, cleaning up, just let it sit and cool down for a while before you put your tap back on. Just let it open and let it drain out, because then hopefully any other moisture and everything will come out of it, and by the time you go to spray, there should be no water in your lines, because if you're doing a spare bit of spraying, that's working, so it's going to heat back up. So any moisture you can get out of the system is better. Leave all the taps open, and when you crank it back up, plug that first, crank it up, and let it just blow back through, and it'll just, any other bits of moisture, it'll just blow out those taps and then just close them, sort of type thing. So yeah, that's where I'm just going to mix the glazing putty, spread it in here, and then I'm going to knock that back, and then I'll give it another wee clean up, and then I'll organise everything else out that I want to put primer on. Like I just want to flick these edges, just want to flick through this edge, and one of the other, I think that one there, that's the only two I want to flick on the edge of those, otherwise they're ready to paint. I want to smash these with a few coats. I probably will do a couple of coats on here, just to give it a bit of extra material, just to block it that last time with 400. I'm just going to block this with 400 and paint it, and yeah, whatever. I don't think I'm going to paint in around here again. The only thing I need to do is temporarily pull those floor bids out, and I might give this stuff a scuff and give it a coat in here. I still need to do that, which is a pain in the ass. My owner's away again, and I haven't had a chance to freaking get him to get some products I need, but we've still got a week. It'll be a week before we paint this, but we're getting really close. But once we get these things sorted, like I can probably paint these in the next couple of days, sort of type thing. At least paint the fenders and get into these and get these a bit closer, and and then we can block that back and whatever. And I want to get some primer on that back valance too. Oh, on the sides, hood sides, give them a few coats quickly, and just blow them down, mainly around here, mainly around this outside area, and then we'll just give everything a nice wet sand or whatever later, because I just put some glazing putty in there the other day and knocked it all off. It's in another video. They're ready to go. They're just going to be just sanded back, ready to paint. So yeah, they've already been primed there quite a few days ago, weeks ago. So but I'll paint them when I paint the body, because it's all blue. And then I'll have to leave the body, and then I'll mask off the top of it around here. I think it's just around here and underneath the back of it, and just spray all that black over the top. And then I'm trying to work out how I'm going to do this stone guard. I might leave the insides of the fenders, I don't know, it's just a bit of a pain in the ass. So I want some stone guard so I can flick in there and flick in the insides of those fenders. So yeah, they might have to wait till next week. And the owner's back again, and I can get them to go get some cans of that. I keep forgetting to freaking ask him. It's the biggest problem. Like I might see him once or twice a week, sort of type thing, when we cross paths. But anyway, I'll get this freaking putty mixed up. Alright, let's blow some primer on. Well, that was a bit of a fuck up for a start. I filled the cup really full, not thinking about it, and I couldn't stir it properly. So the first lot that I blew around the car, I didn't realise it was really thin, and as I walked around and then come back around, it was running. So it's like, so yeah, it didn't do it on the other panels that were quite so flat. It did it on the, hold on. It didn't do it on these quite so much, a little bit. They run a little bit, but I'll pour a heap of coats on them. I'm not too worried about these, you know, I've got to block them out and whatever. Same in this. They frickin' run real bad. It's like, you dumbass. But this was alright because it's flat. Like in the edges of these were alright because they were reasonably flat and I wasn't blowing a lot on them. But the body was alright up here. Lay down fine up there, but it's like friggin' runs in it everywhere. But like it was only the first layer. It's a bit of a pain in the ass because I wanted to wet and dry it. Well, not wet and dry, just wet, sand it out with 400. But I'm going to probably have to knock it all back with 220 and then hopefully get around with 400. The biggest problem was I actually had a primer now. So yeah, I was like thinking, oh yeah, sweet, no, I'll have enough, just enough to layer this up and do the little final block, you know, sand out. And I'm about to spray it, but I hope I don't frickin', because I need to get more primer, but obviously to finish off some of these other smaller parts and bits and pieces. But yeah, I was thinking, oh, I'm just going to wet sand this out with just sand it out with 400 and be done with it. But I don't know if I'm going to be like that now. It's a pain. I've still got to spray. I've still got to like texture undercoat and shit, but yeah, it's a freaking pain in the ass. What a pain. Anyway, not much I can do about it now. It's on there now. I probably could have wiped it off or something like that, but I'll just let it dry and just knock it off. The sanding block will be pretty good with the 220 on it. It'll just knock it off pretty fast. It's not that the body's not too bad. It's not big thick runs. It's just little, it's long light ones, but it should be right. I'll fix it. What a pain in the ass. Because what happened was, instead of putting 500 in, I put 600 in by mistake, and it just didn't give me enough to stir it properly. That's why I like these bigger cups. I can get 600 in my spray gun, but it's really full. So normally I just put it up to 500 mils. So I normally just fill it to here. Well, what are we, about 17 fluid ounces. So that's normally what I have with light reducer and hardener and everything in it. But yeah, I put too much in it, and it wasn't until after I put the hardener in, I was like, shit. And so yeah, I had to fill it up, and then I didn't have really enough room to stir it properly. I should have poured it into another cup and stirred it a bit better. Maybe added a little bit more just primer into it. You know, just put another splash of primer on it just to thicken it up a little bit, but I didn't think about it. My bad. Anyway, that's life. You screw up sometimes. But it's not critical, it can be fixed. But these, I should be able to paint these. I'll give these a block out and paint those, I'll see next week. Whatever, I'll just leave that because I poured a bit of paint on there, so I'll leave it for just a few days to let it cure. So yeah, we can just carry on with these other little bits. I was going to spray that back balance, but I've noticed there's a little bit of glazing putty for some reason. I obviously hadn't mixed it properly. I think it might have been, I did tarp, I remember it, and I hadn't cleaned it out. So there's one little patch in it where it's still soft, so I need to clean it out and fix that. So I didn't spray that. But anyway, that'll do for today. In the meantime, like I'm going to carry on and do some other stuff, but that'll do for footage. Yeah, I'll just sort some stuff out and clean the gun properly and whatever. And yeah, I've got a tiny little bit of primer left. I actually add a little bit of reducer to it. So all I've got to do is put a splash of hardener in it when I need it, but there's like a little bit in there. Might be just enough to touch up an edge or something if I need it, to try and get some paint on this, but I really need another 4 litres of a gallon, to be honest, because I've still got all, you know, all these bits and pieces to paint. Like that, you know, horn headlights, all those little bits and pieces, you know, probably end up painting the fuel tank, I guess. You know, like there's still lots of bits and pieces to sort and paint. Just little stuff. So yeah, like I'll let in at least another gallon, 4 litres, and that'll give me a little bit extra to finish these other pieces off. Hopefully. Righty, catch you later on. Right, morning guys, third time lucky. I keep getting off subject. Right, so today we're not going to sand. I'm going to leave the 2 fenders that I painted black and then sanded back, and I just flicked the edges yesterday. I'm going to leave them till tomorrow, and I'm going to sand them tomorrow, unless I don't get done everything that I need to want to do today, which is possible. You know, it might run into tomorrow. And I'll leave the rest to start sanding until Monday, just to get in the future today to secure it. But I want to get those pieces sanded back. So whether I do it this week or not, those edge pieces, because I would like to get them painted, well, work towards getting them painted, and obviously the rest of it. But what I'm going to do today is start playing with some wood again. I'm going to remake the timber in this. It's got a bit of borer damage or termite damage. What we would call borer over here. It's like a little wood weevil, I guess you would call it, or whatever it is. We call it borer. It's got an aluminium edge on most of the stuff, and there's obviously some cast aluminium pieces or pressed aluminium pieces, whatever it is, that's got to go back on them. There's another piece as well, and there's also another piece of timber, plywood, whatever, that goes up against in the back of the firewall. So I'm going to make that as well. Whether I make it today or not, I don't know, but I just want to remake all these bits of timber. Fairly simple. Most of it should be simple enough, if you know what I mean. But it's a little bit in it. There's a little bit of fluffing around. Should be fairly basic, but I was going to get it apart first, obviously, and then start rebuilding the bits of wood. So I want to try and get them apart without destroying anything, so I can use it as good patterns. Now, before I start that, my little job quizzy thing. So I'm going to record the next, give you the next clue now. So I'll finish editing this tomorrow night, and then because I'll go through and see who's wrong and who's right. And there's a few that are right, and there's a few that are wrong. Enough said. But anyway, so the next question is, I may or may not have worked night shift for some jobs. So, how many jobs did I work night shift or not work night shift? So was it 1, 2, or 3, or is it none? There's your dilemma for this week coming. So, well, you can either write A, B, C, or D, or just 1, 2, 3, or none. I may or may not have worked night shift. Who knows? You're the one that's got to guess. I know. So yeah, I'm going to get on with that. The other thing is too, for the prize for this, I'm making something. I'm not sure. I posted it on Instagram, so if you follow me on Instagram, you might know. I can't remember if I posted a short on here or not. I have to double check. I can't remember. But I'm making something, and I was forging it with oxyacetylene plant. Not ideal, but works. But I'm going to make a forge in the next few weeks, month, whatever. But what I want to find is I'm going to make one out of a rim of a, I was thinking about maybe a car wheel, but I want to build something a little bit bigger, a little bit deeper. So I'm going to try that. I'll either find a smaller truck rim, maybe like a 17.5-inch truck rim, or trailer rim, or maybe a 19.5-inch truck trailer rim, like a steel one, obviously not alloy, and then fill the holes up and whatever, make that. I've been watching a few videos, simple to make. Make cold pad one, obviously, So you just got to have a tube on the bottom of it with a dump, obviously get rid of the ash and clinkers and whatever else. You put a rod at the top underneath the base of it with a hunk of steel that you can spin around in it. That will obviously work as a bit of a draft stop, but also you can spin it and it just breaks up the clinkers to fall through, and then you have a pipe off of that to blow air through. So whether you can use it like a hair dryer or a heat gun, or maybe like some little fan that you can poke in there and it'll just pushes air up through, so it keeps those coals burning real nice and hot. And a couple of legs, and yeah, pretty much, and just seal the holes off from the in the rim, so it just blows up through the centre. So I was thinking at a truck rim, because apparently there's a sweet spot, obviously from where the bent bottom of the tube is, it comes up with your little clinker breaker. There's a sweet spot above that for your good hot point, and if I think if I make it a little bit larger and a little bit deeper, I can get a bigger sweet spot, so I can work with some bigger stuff to make some tools. Obviously I want to make some blacksmithing tools, but maybe some panel beating tools and all sorts of stuff. And I've got a few bits of scrap steel here. I've got a couple of ring gears that are no good, and a couple of pinions that are no good. So there's a bit of steel there and whatever, so I better make something out of that sort of stuff. And, there's always a bit of scrap steel around here somewhere. It's fairly, scrap steel is easy to find if you know where to look for it. So yeah, that's something to come up shortly too. So whether I use it here or use it at home, I'm not sure yet, but it might be a sort of weekendy thing that makes some extra little videos just making stuff and learning how to make stuff, obviously getting heating right and all that sort of stuff. So it could be something to look forward to in the next few months. So I'm going to get cleaning these parts up, getting them apart, and yeah, we'll play with some wood today and some aluminium, not aluminum. Righty. Whoa. Brake pads! Stupid freaking out. So, this is what I started making the other day to go with this thing. It used to be a 17mm ratchet spanner, still a ratchet spanner at one end. But what had happened is I bought a cheap set of ratchet spanners like 20 years ago when they were sort of a newish thing, and one side of the jaw broke off on the open end. So it's been sitting in the toolbox. I use it occasionally for the ratchet end, but I like to screw it. I'll make it into a weird looking knife. That's the blade side of it. I just make it like a sort of like a letter opener, sort of, I don't know, funny thing. So I've still got a little bit of work to do on it, clean it up a wee bit better and whatever, but that's going to be part of the prize. I might even make a little, try and make something to put it in, so obviously it's not an open device, especially in the freight or in parcel delivery. So yeah, but that'll be part of the prize, and some other stuff, t-shirt and whatever. So I just thought I'd make something. So yeah, I'll get it back into this. I'll just having a little play, trying to work out how I'm going to clean this stuff up. Obviously, polish it, whatever, but just what was going to work, what wasn't going to work. So actually, for a start off, I got a brass wire wheel on the watt angle liner. I was just trying to run it at a low speed just to knock the worst of the shit off it, because it's got 100 years or whatever, well not probably 100 years, but heading towards that of just grit and grime and shit on it. I just run it over gently, like just without hardly any pressure at all, just to try and knock the shit off. First, just to have a bit of a better look at it. But I think maybe, I don't know, I know it'll polish up with a jeweler's rouge or something like that on a buffing wheel. That's not really strong enough to use that. It is, but it's not. But yeah, I think if I give it a clean up with maybe some wet and dry or something like that, even if it's just like 400 or even 320 or something like that, just to clean the worst of the crap off and then run over it with something like that, with obviously some jeweler's rouge on it or some aluminium polish or something like that, and just clean it up a bit. I don't want it to be like shiny like a mirror, but just obviously clean it up so it doesn't look old and dirty and crusty. But I'm not worried at the moment. I'll just sort of have a play while it's still on the bits of wood to clean it up. Have a play to see what it would, see how easy it would come. I think it'll come up easy enough. But yeah, we'll see if we can get these little nuts and bolts out of here, machine screws out of here. I actually freed this vise up. I sprayed a bit of crap in there. So I get this wood vise, so I'm not clamping it in a steel vise. So I just freed that up too. And I did think about maybe videoing that, making that knife, but yeah, I don't really know enough about forging yet to be making videos about it. I'm going to have a wee play first, and then I just build up a wee bit of knowledge, obviously with temperatures, and I understand like the basics of it, like tempering and whatever, but I don't really know the full-on ins and outs and exactly how to do it and how hot and what colours to look for and all that sort of stuff. I've got what I mean a rough idea. I've got like a really rough idea of how it all works, but I haven't really sat and studied it. It's always something I've wanted to learn and play with. Like I've talked about it with Arco, shitloads, getting a whole bunch of bigger old spanners or reaches or whatever you want to call them, and making some cool knives out of them. I think a 17mm or a 11/16 is about as small as you would like to go. That's like easily held in the handle, to hold on to. Like I think the smaller ones would be alright for like a little leather letter opener sort of type thing. Like small ones, like a I don't know what, like a 3/8 or a 7/16 or something like that sort of size, or 10mm, 11mm sort of type thing would be alright for a little letter opener. God, I can't even speak today. But yeah, it's something I want to have a play with and just get a little bit of a handle on for a start off, and then obviously learn and make some tools and whatever, and obviously make some tools to help with panel beating too. I think it's a cool thing to learn, to go with this sort of thing. If you want to make something or need something where you can, spend a Saturday or a Sunday forging something that you can use Monday, But we'll get this off. We'll stop talking about that. I'm getting excited. Wasting time, son, wasting time. Jeez, man. With a 4-hour video. Ding. Alright, let's see if we can get these. Again, we start with some CRC. Yes, CRC. See if we can get these off. Right. We got that off. We'll just throw that away now. Don't need that bit. Go with you. You stupid bastard. Right. Ooh, fluffy bit. You gotta watch those fluffy bits. Right. Let's make, or remake this bit. We'll get on with it. So, there's a tape measure. Here, tape measure. Right. I better go look for wood. Change of plans. Gonna make it all out of plywood. I'm gonna go get some marine grade, just so it lasts longer. Well, since we've had a slight change of plans, I'll start pulling this apart so we can get these blocks to lift this floor up out, and a few bits and pieces of that. I'll probably just have to give that a quick heat up, undo their bolts, and just start picking this stuff off. Maybe see if I can do something with it. What a mess for nothing. Oh well. Anyway, wise way getting some plywood. Just going to get some 9mm and some 19mm, which would be a 3/4 and not quite 3/8. So I've got these off now, wherever they are, here. So I'm going to throw them in the sandblasting cabinet and give these a clean up and just see. I think that's all one piece. Looks like it. May not be. So give these all a clean up in the blasting cabinet, and I'll get these off too and give them a clean up and straighten up and whatever. At least then they're sort of ready to go, and I'll better see whether these are actually meant to come apart or not, and maybe tidy these slots up and bits and pieces. So I'll do that. Well, I'm right. I was wondering whether that was a solid thing or whether it wasn't, because I cleaned them up in the blasting cabinet, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's more than just one piece. And it is. It's got a little springy thing in there and whatever. So I'll heat this one up and clean everything up, and then we'll put it back together properly. I don't know if this would have been coated or not. Hard to say. It might have been just painted black or something like that. I don't know. I'll ask you questions. I'm sure David over at in Australia will tell me on all the Studebakers he's played with. But yeah, we'll get this one apart and clean it up too. And it'll probably won't be far away from lunchtime shortly. Right, let's heat this one up. Give it a wee warm. Just a slight barbecue. Where's my stick over there? Sticking at it. Stick. Woohoo! Gonna be ready and warm by that. Right. Just warm the outside ring bit. Warm up the ring piece. It's a bit cold. I probably could just give it a tap and probably just pour it out, but just in case. So we'll give it a wee warm up. It's all goobied up in there. Loosen everything up a little bit. Why is it not too loose? Don't think like things too loose. Right. Okay, that'll be warm. Guarantee that's warm. Just a spring is still in there. Probably could have just knocked that out, but you wouldn't know, would you? There we go. Right, give that a bit more of a clean up. Well, can't get any plywood until Monday. because the local timber merchant's not open in New Zealand, because it's Christmas holidays and their summer holidays all at the same time. A lot of places are closed for a week or two. Some open, some don't. So yeah, we can't get any plywood. So I'm going to stop making floor pieces anyway. I'm still going to strip some of these pieces down and straighten up some of the edges and bits and pieces, and just start cleaning some of the aluminium or aluminum parts up, tidy them up anyway, get them so they're ready to go back on. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do in the meantime, I guess. And then once I've sort of got that stuff, which won't take terribly long, and then I'll start finding something else to do in the meantime until Monday, I guess. Yeah. Yep. I'm trying to think what I'm going to do now. Yeah, apart from pull these bits and pieces apart. Yeah, we'll work on it. Anyway, I'll strip the bits off this and hammer and dolly these a little bit. Yeah, and just go from there, I guess. We'll work it out as we go. It's a bit of a pain not being able to have that stuff. So I'm going to end up with some more primer and stuff on probably Tuesday. So maybe some timber on Monday. It'll be later, Monday, and a few other bits and pieces. So yeah, we'll get sort of back into it, I guess. But yeah, yeah, I'll call it here for this video. I think I might just add a last little piece for the quiz, just to let know people who got what right. I'll just do that slightly closer to the time when I've obviously I'll just add that in like tomorrow before I finish editing or whatever. Once I've figured out and gone through all the stuff, I'll quickly make a little thing just to say who got what. But yeah, I think that'll do, because otherwise I'm going to end up with too much footage, especially chopping and changing all over the place. I'll get this stuff apart and I'll start a new video, I think. Right guys, so I thought I'd just do a roundup, an early roundup of this quiz stuff. I'm going to wait a few more hours until the end of the day when I'm finished here at work, and I'll do a final tally up, and I'll just put if there's anybody else that's got the questions right or wrong, I'll put them on the screen. But Bill Cameron, Edge of Eternity, Mopar Nut 62 and Iron Horse Garage are the only ones that have got it right so far, which was a vegetable picker. So I used to walk through fields, paddocks, whatever you want to call it, and pull Swedes out of the ground, which are a bit like a turnip. If you don't know what a Swede is, it's a little bit different. It's more yellowy and it's got a purple top. It's quite good eating. It's winter vegetable, obviously, like a turnip. But yeah, I used to walk through the paddocks, fields, with tractors beside us with big wooden boxes on it, and trim them off and throw them in a box. And I used to go away to markets and whatever. So I did that for a few months. It was my very first job, very first paying job. So yeah, sorry, Wooden Metal Garage, Gary Collins, and Vino Rat Rod Builds. You all got it wrong. Sorry, bud, guys, whatever. And if anybody else gets it wrong, I'll put their name up there too, just to give them a little shout out, basically. Now, there's one channel that I've been sort of just started watching. Arco pointed them out to me the other day, and they're actually from New Zealand, but they're from the other end of the neck of the woods, right up the top of the North Island almost. At the top of North Island where it starts getting skinny above Auckland, where it's got that, sort of, it's real skinny, and then comes out and blows out, and then comes back down to a bit of a point at the bottom of the North Island. They're up in that skinny piece. And the channel's called the Old Parior, I think it is, Parior, store and cafe and bar. It obviously was an old cafe bar sort of thing years ago. And that's now their rat rod, hot rod shop. They've got some really, really cool stuff there. They do dirt drag racing and all sorts of other stuff going on, car shows and everything all up there. Pretty cool area for that sort of stuff. A lot of huge, more bigger population like Auckland, which is, I don't know, might be an hour or so away from them. I'm not exactly sure how far away Auckland is from them, but it'll be about an hour or more. Like that's 1 million people plus, so there's a bit more population up there. But where these guys are, it's fairly remote, little area, little spot. But they got some really cool stuff there, some big long open sheds by the looks of it. There might be some enclosed sheds, and they got some cool stuff in there that they all play around with and build stuff. And a lot of it's really cool, just we'll get it together, get it going sort of type stuff. Obviously they do finishing work and whatever, but there's some cool stuff in there. They've got a 51, I think it's a 51 sort of era Buick, and it's a 2-door pillarless coupe. Freaking badass car. It's straight 8. They've got it. They must have got it a wee while ago. Got it running. Obviously had the head and everything all off. They've got it running and driving, and they're obviously going to do more to it. So that's really cool. It's one of a few. I don't know how many exactly they made. They did tell me in some comments, but I think it's somewhere, around that couple of thousand sort of mark that was ever made of that particular variation. If you watch Brent from Halfass, it's a little bit like his one, but I don't know whether his is I can't remember whether his is a proper pillarless coupe. I can't remember his is a post or a pillarless one, but yeah, this is a proper, it's 49 or 50 or 51 thereabouts, pillarless coupe, straight 8, fucking wicked car. And they've got heaps of other stuff, and they go dirt racing and all sorts of cool stuff up there, so definitely well worth a watch. Some really cool stuff. They go through one of the biggest, there's a video they've got, and they go through, so scrap yard, like recycling yard. It's been there forever, and they call it, what is it? Smash Palace. It's one of the biggest old yards that's got a whole heap of old cars and stuff in it. They don't scrap anything. It just sits there, and people just pick parts off it as they need it. But there's obviously more modern stuff there too. But there's a cool video on that. Them just walking through there trying to find stuff and parts for old cars. So there's some really, really cool videos in amongst this stuff. I just started watching their channel about a week ago. Awesome channel. They got about 400 subs. So go give them a sub and watch some stuff and tell them that me and Arco sent them. And so yeah, I'm waiting just a wee bit longer just to see if there's anybody else comments for this competition too. So anyway, so yeah, wasn't never a road worker, and I never worked in a cheese factory. I've worked in a few factories, but never in a cheese factory. So yeah, I pulled vegetables out of the ground, Swedes. This was my first job. So anyway, I'll pop the rest up in the video if I get any more right or wrong answers. And I'll make a whole list, and I'll put all their channel logos and everything, so if anybody wants to go watch any of these guys' channels, they can. So anyway, we'll catch you later on. This will be the end of this video, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Yep.